Yes, 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 yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. Available everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or klyphnotes.com, of course. Listen, man, I'm not going to do the normal intro with all of the dates and the whole situation, man, because this brother does not need to be waiting, and I'm super psyched and excited to have him as a guest on the podcast. He is, man, I'm just gonna bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen, Brother Ali. What's good, bro?
Good. I'm chilling. I'm happy to be back with you. Good to see you again.
No doubt, man. Yeah, thank you so much for doing the radio show interview, man. It was really cool to catch up with you after the tour, and I kind of want to run that back a little bit because now you're a couple of weeks, post tour, and you've talked about it on. We're gonna talk about the podcast, your podcast, in a minute. Sort of where you're at now after the tour is over. You've had an opportunity to sort of reflect, and how you feeling, bro?
Man, so the tour was amazing. It was incredible amount of work leading up to it. And it was, I don't want to use the word stress, but there was a lot of concerns that needed to be addressed. And there were weighty concerns. If they didn't go right, some really embarrassing and unfortunate things could have happened going up to the tour. And so, yeah, I go into it in my episode called, of my podcast called Processing the Satisfied Soul Tour. And then it ended up being great. It was successful. It was triumphant. The last night of the tour in particular was just like, felt like the last 4 years of my life, like this whole chapter of my life felt like it all paid off. And then I came back to Istanbul, where I live with my family, and I was riding a high for a few days. And then I had this like post-tour crash, kind of a baby depression. And then also, I've been grinding for the past calendar year, and so I came back and there was nothing I immediately needed to do. And then, in your head, like if you sit longer than a week, you're going to start getting the blues.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I have the money from the tour. I'm like, yeah, my bills are paid.
Yeah.
There's nothing I have to, like, legitimately, there's nothing I really have to do other than jump on social media and promote the record that's coming in a month.
Right.
But realistically, I could chill for a month and nothing horrible would happen, except for it's just not good. I'm not built like that, know?
Yeah.
So just honestly, in the last couple of days, I started slowly getting back to my routines and things like that. So
yeah.
It's just the highs and lows, man, with like any other gig.
And that's the crazy thing is when I think about artists and creating art and presenting it to people and having them absorb it and everything that goes into that, the fact of the matter is it's work. It's the work that we all do. My listeners know that this is all my passion project. My 9 to 5 is, I work in healthcare, and it's still work. Even though you're creating this art, it is still work, and you have to put in to get out so that you can replenish, to put out more. And to hear you describe it like that is like, yeah, that's real, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the reason that most creative people don't become what they want to become, And it's a hard thing to say because it's, there is a lot of injustice in the world. There's injustice in music or entertainment or cultural work, whatever you think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of unfair stuff that happens. But also, every person that I've met, every time I see somebody that like, you're way more talented than your level of success, what's going on? When I get closer to that person and I get to know them or try to do some work with them, I start realizing like, oh, you don't answer your emails, or like you don't have your business right, or like your personal practices are crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have discipline. You don't have your stuff together. You don't do the parts of this that you don't feel like doing. And just like anything else, it's like you can be naturally extremely gifted and you can love the art piece, but it just is the way of the world that if you don't do all of the work that nobody wants to do,
Mhm.
then you're just not going to be whatever you could be.
Do you think that being I mean, you are 1000% independent as an artist right now, and
Yeah.
let's I guess let's get into that a little bit. The fact that,
Yeah.
this was released on Travelers Media, um, you and the team BK1 and the small collective of
That's it. You said the whole team.
Fire it up. Like
That's the
that's it.
roll
It's
call.
not right
That's the roll call.
there. That you guys, I mean, together are have put this together, and but you even being a part of labels when you were doing work with Rhymesayers, that's still considered a small independent label. So having done it the way that you've done it all of these years, do you think that that's built up a certain sense of work ethic for you that maybe the artist who is blessed to be signed to a situation where they've got A&R and they've got massive producers, and you know what I mean, that they maybe for some people they don't have that experience when you talk about what you just described about people not doing the grind?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate that yes, I was on. So I've known people that are on major labels.
Hmm.
I've known people that went directly from major labels to coming to Rhymesayers.
Hmm.
So Freeway is a really dear friend of mine. He did his first album on Rockefeller.
Hmm.
Second album was on G Unit. Third album was on Rhymesayers.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's like he's gone and very similar with Evidence.
Mm.
And you know so they've been on both sides of the coin, and then friends like Merce, who has always been independent, but he had an album on a major label,
Hmm.
and then he also had albums on a lot of the bigger independent labels, which is what Rhymesayers is. It's a bigger independent label. um, but I would say that for those that I know that have been on big labels, you have a lot less, it's a lot less personal, it's a lot less fair,
Hmm.
it's a lot less personable,
Hmm.
it's a lot less, there's a lot less connection there,
Hmm.
but it's a lot less work too.
Hmm.
And you don't have much control, you don't have much connection, but they do a lot of things for you if they're working. But also, I mean, at a big label or a small label, your project could get shelved and you could just end up, without much movement at all. But I will say I'm very grateful for being on Rhymesayers, because for having been on Rhymesayers for 20 years, because that's a small team too.
Yeah.
It's a team of, it's different. Me and BK is two people.
Hmm.
They have 20,
Hmm.
but I was there when it was three people. I was there when it was four people. I've seen the president of the label there all night. I've gone home and come back, and he's still there wearing the same clothes,
Yeah.
trying to figure out the artwork for something that's about to sell 300 copies.
Yeah.
I've seen him walk away. He had a great job at Best Buy corporate.
Hmm.
When that was a big deal, when Best Buy was like the biggest store in the world,
Yeah.
and he walked away from that so that he could help us all with our careers. I saw when the main rapper on the label was working the cash register at the record store.
Hmm.
I saw, the guy who eventually went on to run the Soundset Music Festival. I've seen him come with me when I'm like opening on the small stage in a festival and they change my set time. So I was supposed to go on at, 4 in the afternoon. Now I'm on at 2.
Yeah.
I've seen that man, Jaybird, sit there and like he's an old school graffiti artist. So he got a stack of paper from the printer in the office at the festival
Hmm.
and some highlighter markers and made bubble letter signs that said Brother Ali is on at 2 p.m. and posted them all over the fairgrounds,
Wow.
all over the festival grounds.
Yeah.
Like I've seen real work. I've seen, you know, the big artists that everybody's jealous of sleep on the floor.
Hmm.
I've seen them twist their ankle carrying their own equipment. I've seen them sleep sitting up I've seen work. I know what that looks like.
Hmm.
And I've also seen things done very well. So when we did go independent, and at the end of working with Rhymesayers, it got very heartbreaking and frustrating for me.
Hmm.
But it's like, I know everybody here is sincere. That's part of what was so frustrating about it. These are all good people. Nobody is here to get rich. It's just not working, and we cannot seem to get on the same page. So when me and BK left and started doing our own thing, we took the things that we learned from them.
Mhm.
You know, so I'll never have a bad word. As frustrating and heartbreaking as that was, you know, there's nothing bad I could say about them, because any amount of frustration, it's like if you put the frustration on one end of a scale,
Yeah.
and then you put the fact that I do what I do for a living, I do what I love for a living,
Mhm.
and they taught me how to do that.
Mhm.
It's just like, it's the frustration is nothing compared to the valuable gems that they gave me. Even the belief that I could do it.
Yeah.
You know, I think specifically about Atmosphere in particular. We all saw Atmosphere go from freestyling for hours in little clubs to selling out First Avenue to going on tours to going on world tours. And it's like, oh, if you focus for long enough, if you're disciplined for long enough, it can turn into something. I might not get where they're at,
Mhm.
but I'll get whatever's mine, because they didn't get where, you know, they might have been looking at the Beastie Boys
Right.
and they didn't get where the Beastie Boys got.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you do your thing in an organized, disciplined, like sustainable way for years and years and years and years and years, and you love it, and you'll get whatever you're meant to get.
Mhm.
And there's a sense of accomplishment in that that's unmatched.
Yeah. Yeah. Question just came to mind, bro. Like when you consider
Mm.
the fact that you have been able to do this for as long as you have, and you know, I think it's fair to say you've been on the planet for a minute, and all that all that you've achieved.
Yeah, I'm in my mid 40s. I had my first release party for a self-produced demo tape I made in the hotel room. That was in the spring of 2000. So
Wow,
I've been releasing music that people have been buying from me for 25 years.
that's so dope, bro. That's so dope. And I,
Mhm.
you know, being always and continuing to be just a fan of this art form, but I've been on this planet for a minute, and so I remember my feeling of looking at. I remember going from, man, no, please understand that this is really art, that it's not a fad. Please just accept it. I remember going from that to, whoa, pump the brakes. Hold on, what happened? Like, you know what I mean? Like it got out of
Right, right,
control.
right, right. Yeah, it got out of control
You
fast.
know what I mean? You know what I mean? But my question was going to be, when now that you have the life experience and you can look back on where you are and what you're doing, what do you, I don't know how to ask it, like success sounds so cliche-ish because it can mean so many different things, but do you feel like, ah, yes, this is what I wanted. I feel like I am successful. I am satisfied with where I'm at. Or do you feel like, oh, I that's what I want, you know, looking at, as you use the example of could it be Atmosphere looking at the Beastie Boys or that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's overwhelmingly satisfaction, gratitude,
Mhm.
overwhelming.
Mm.
But there is a degree of like, no, it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
But I'm very happy with what it is. And man, you got to be spiritually connected and grounded, otherwise it's not going to work.
Mm.
And some people, different people have different language for that. But when I say spiritual, I mean it can't be just material.
Mhm.
It can't just be other people's opinions. There's got to be something unseen that is realer to you than the physical material reality.
Yes.
Because there's only going to be material or even rewards from other people. There's only going to be external rewards some of the time.
Yeah.
So anybody that does this for a long time, like there's something deeply internal that's keeping us going. And so yeah, and so I believe that there's things that I wanted. The number one thing that I just have to be real about is that I grew up like you did
Mhm.
in hip hop culture,
Mhm.
in like black hip hop culture.
Mhm.
And the fact that my music isn't known outside of extreme heads like yourself, you know what I mean? People who really study to the point where like, I want to know everything, especially if somebody's saying something. And if it's like they're true to the art form, I want to know about all of them. So like all those people, it's like, I'm great with all those people. Those are all that's my crew. Those are my friends. I love that. And my favorite artists have all validated me without exception. I'm close friends with Yassine Bey, Mos Def, and Chuck D, and I was close with Doom, and like all these people, everybody I look up to has validated me in some kind of way. So that's dope. The one little thing that I'm like, man, is just that the standard hip hop fan doesn't know that my music exists to even know if they like it or not.
Yeah.
And I watched Tech Nine and Merce really fight for that for themselves. They really, Tech Nine more so, but Merce did too. And in his own way, Kweli did. You know, Kweli is my friend. But Kweli is known in that world, but he had to fight for it. He had to go and like seek out, and Kweli knows everybody. And he's like, man, I got a record with 2 Chainz. I got a record with, you know, he might have a record with Glorilla. I would not be surprised.
Right.
He's got stuff with everybody. And he fights for himself, but by doing that, he fights for all of us that are doing conscious music. And Tech Nine was just like, y'all need to respect me. I know I have paint on my face. I know my face is painted. I know it doesn't look traditional.
Yeah.
But you're gonna respect these bars.
Yeah.
And you're gonna hear me next to Lil Wayne, and you're gonna so and so.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of when we were growing up. We used to see Little Richard, and we used to Little Richard kind of became like the meme before there was memes.
Yeah.
Of him saying, I'm the inventor, I created it, I am the originator, I didn't want to did it. And we kind of like laughed at him about that until you get older and realize he's the one that put the Beatles on, he put the Rolling Stones on, he put Jimi Hendrix on, he put David Bowie on, he put so-and-so on, he put this person on, he put, and like all of these people. And you realize he's not lying.
Yeah.
And he knows that if he doesn't say that, then they'll write him out of history.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the challenge. It's like, man, I just was putting together a playlist of my story raps. Cause I went one time to Double XL and they were doing an interview on me and a piece. And I was like, these people don't even know who I am. This is about to make me feel terrible. I flew all the way to New York. I'm just like, I'm going to feel terrible. I'm glad I was seeing Sway and Reggie Osei Combat Jack. Because I'm like, those 2 dudes know me, love me. They're going to make me feel okay.
Right.
But I'm like, damn, I'm going to go to Double XL and they don't care about me. I'm going to see Peter Rosenberg. He got to be the only white person in the room. He don't like me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, today's going to suck. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I go to Double XL. I have a song about this called Sensitive. The writer he knows everything I've ever done. And it's this young black brother and he's like, knows everything I've ever done. He's like, yo, and we had this great conversation. Then he's like, come meet the staff. The editor knows me. All the staff members are asking for pictures. They're telling me stories about how they came to my shows when they were in college. And I was just like, why do you not talk about me then?
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, what do you mean? I said, okay, you just did a thing about the best storytellers in hip hop. And you know damn well that I'm one of them. You know it. I wouldn't expect, but why don't people know that?
Yeah.
And they didn't have an answer. They didn't know why they don't write about me or my friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't you, how come Merce isn't in that category? A$AP Rock, Sage Francis, you know what I'm saying? LP been LP for 30 years.
Right.
And he just now, and so has Killer Mike. And something about that pairing, they finally got their acknowledgement, but they've been as dope as they are now for 30 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's, you know, it's 90% joyful, grateful, happy, and then 10% that. But also, sorry, I'm sorry for a long answer.
Nah, you good.
But I was just on tour with D1, who I love. And, you know, D's audience is black. And I'm like, you know, but he's trying to learn how to tour as an independent artist because his circle of artists doesn't do that. And he looks up to Merce, like Merce is like a mentor to him. And Merce is one of my dearest friends. So he came on tour with me because he wanted to learn how to do touring as an independent artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, soak up all the game you can. I'll tell you all the people, I'll show you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because Merce and Slug showed it to me. So, but I was seeing the young women that
Mm-hmm.
were coming to see him every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I don't know if I would have been the husband that I am if I had that challenge. Because D1 is Christian and he's a for real Christian.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a for real Muslim.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, we live by a similar code. And I'm like, man, I don't need that problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's like everything that we pray for that we don't get, that's not given to us in the way that we ask for it, or there's usually a protection in it. There's always a protection and a wisdom in it. So I'm like, man, anything I didn't get, and I wouldn't trade what I didn't get for what I got. I wouldn't trade my friendship with Chuck D or Yassine Bey or, 100 other people for a Grammy. If they're like, would you rather have a Grammy or would you, rather be able to call Black Thought? I would rather be able to call Black Thought. Now, not that it's got to be one or the other, but it's like, I wouldn't trade what I have for what I don't. I would rather have what I have than to have what I don't have. If it's a choice. So yeah, I mean, it never, I don't think it looks like anybody, but then also all my heroes, I found out it wasn't what they thought it was going to be either. The people I'm looking up to. So I'm like, damn, I wish I was in that circle with, like I came out at the same time as Little Brother. We had a very similar size fan base. We're selling similar tickets. We're similar on the charts. They were in the OK Player crowd. Their crowd was the crowd I wanted. And I just didn't get it really. And so I'm looking at them like, man, you got what I wanted. But then I watched their documentary and I'm like, oh, that seemed like it was hell the whole time. This seemed, you know what I mean? That thing didn't seem fun at all.
Right.
Like I think I had way more fun than those guys had. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, and Fonte's the most talented dude any of us have ever met. So like, if I see the tough go, he's very successful. He ended up doing his own thing and doing foreign exchange and he's on the pocket. He's doing great. I'm just saying, I've also learned, don't envy anybody. Anybody that you might look up to and say they got it made, they're struggling in ways. I mean, the most famous person I know is Dave Chappelle. And I don't think he's happier than me. He's off the Richter scale successful. He's probably the most famous person on earth, maybe. He's like the Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? And I love him beyond words. And he's a great person and everything. And like, I just, in terms of happiness, is he happier than me? I don't know. And I don't think so. I don't think I'm happier than him either. But it's like when we're talking, like, so like if we go on a stage somewhere, I will disappear because that's Dave Chappelle.
Right.
But when we're in a room talking and you're just two people, it's like, I don't envy this person at all. And like what he had to go through to become him. I don't think I could handle that. You know what I mean? And even what he goes through on a day-to-day basis now. It seems exhausting to be that famous. Because every moment of his life, he's trying to give back, trying to help people, trying to facilitate things, trying to make everything fun for everybody, because he's got this enormous weight of having fame and money, and he doesn't want to waste a second of it. So he's constantly hosting a never-ending party that just looks exhausting to me. I'm like, man, I'll stick with being Brother Ali and I got 3 daughters and a son and a wife, and that's all I got to worry about.
No, I hear, and so much of it obviously is perspective and time and where we are in this life journey, that helps us see things that way. But it is interesting to me because transitioning from being a fan of this art form to having platforms to getting to know artists and hearing these stories, it is interesting. I just want to go back a little bit. So when you talked about people who understand who you are, but yes, why don't we talk about the art that you've created? So let me, I've known,
and I mean, and you do. Like here I am.
Do, so. But that's what I'm about to say, bro. Like, so I knew of Brother Ali for a minute. For me, it was it was probably I was trying to think about it. It was probably just a decade ago, um, when I heard "Morning in America." That that for me that was the oh not only do I just know who Brother Ali is, but oh I'm okay. Yes, I'm in now, and from that point forward, definitely began to not only absorb but then use my platforms for like, okay, y'all know who this is, right? Like, and I think for many of us, it is. I don't. I must speak for myself. We are so inundated with art and music, and and there's stuff out there, and sometimes it's hard to sort of tap in. I guess I'm what I'm trying to get to is ask you the question: why do you think, as the creator of the art, why do you think you are not talked about in those conversations? And I know you've talked about this to a certain degree.
Mhm. No, but yeah, not with you. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
I think it's a number of things. I
Mhm,
think so. When I started out, I was, thoroughly embraced by the people that I looked up to.
mhm,
So like the first people that brought me, Atmosphere was the first one to bring me on tour, and then Merce.
mhm,
So there was kind of like two worlds that I had access to.
mhm,
One was, and I'm just gonna say it in very, very broad strokes.
mhm,
This isn't as like I am oversimplifying and I'm doing somebody wrong with these generalizations.
mhm,
But we basically had in the early 2000s there was this whole wave of underground artists, a lot of whom were white.
mhm.
People like Sage Francis and Aesop Rock and Slug. And Slug's actually black, white, and native, but he looks white, so people treat him like he's white.
Yeah.
And so he started being like, okay, if you think I'm white, then I'm gonna act like I wish white people would act in this culture. You know what I mean? And like honor it a certain way, carry it a certain way. Da, da. But and it was people like LP and like all of the like in the 80s, there was hip hop was an overwhelmingly black thing, and there would be one white dude at the hip hop party.
Mhm,
And he knew everybody. He had to earn his right to be there, but he had a reason to be there and he was really part of the thing.
mhm,
Those people, when it got to the early 2000s, started just making their own music and finding each other.
mhm,
And they built this network of underground independent thing. The Rhymesayers crew, the Living Legends crew, Def Jux, and certain others that weren't on those labels, you know what I mean?
mhm,
But those are kind of the three buckets. So, and then their fan base was overwhelmingly white.
mhm,
People that hadn't really participated in hip hop. They weren't the one white kid in the hip hop room,
mhm,
but they were people that always kind of inclined towards rap,
mhm,
but figured like this isn't really for me. But then once they saw Sage Francis and others, they're like, oh, there's just enough. This is authentic enough. It's artistic enough, but I'm seeing enough of myself in it that now this is mine.
yeah.
And they were extremely excited. They were extremely supportive. They would drive 6 hours. They would tattoo your words on their body. They would go to every single show. They bought everything you ever did. They showed all their friends. They came to the show and they brought 3 friends with them.
Mhm.
They named their I don't know how many albino dogs are named after me. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like they love you. There's children named after me. I've met
Wow.
children named Aliyah and Ali, and there's kids that are named after my kid. It's like
Yeah,
they're very beautiful, dedicated listeners.
yeah,
And some of them over time really were on some like I wanna understand. They wanted to understand my worldview better.
yeah,
So some of them have become Muslim. A lot of them started reading James Baldwin and listening to Nina Simone and like all the stuff I'm into.
yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I have had an impact in that world that feels good to me.
Mhm,
Then on the other side though, so I was like going on tour with them, and then I was also going on tour with, in my first couple years, Brand New being
mhm,
Rakim for a full year,
mhm.
Jizza, Ghostface, Doom. That was a Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy.
Yeah,
That's the other world I was in.
yeah.
Now on that thing, I had to earn it. I had to earn it within the first 5 seconds of being on stage.
Mhm,
But I did.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
me and BK, he was my DJ at that time.
mhm.
We won over every audience. We won over everybody we're in front of. But it was an uphill battle because it's like this is not what people signed up for.
Mhm,
It's not what hip hop is.
mhm.
Hip hop is black culture and art, and that's what it is. Like
Yeah,
you can't. That's why, it's what it is. It's what makes it what it is.
Yeah.
So we never felt anything other than like as it should be. It's like we should have to earn the right to be up here.
Mhm.
And I should, and I can, and I also can. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
So, we did that every day. So for me, it's like, okay, one of those worlds I'm fighting and scrapping and kicking tooth and nail to get accepted. The other one is flocking to me.
Mhm.
So, and I balanced out both until I started headlining. And then once I started headlining, now it's my show. And the audience is full of 95% the underground white backpack thing,
Yeah.
which is it's not all white. There's a lot of Mexican homies, there's a lot of Asian homies, there are black homies brothers that come to the shows.
Mhm.
And for me, it's funny. Like my friends always note, like there's always a couple black women here that are here to see you, sir. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like that. And there's always a
Yeah.
couple Muslims.
Yeah.
But that audience, and so when they kind of like claimed me,
Mhm.
they're the ones that decide what my top stuff on the algorithm is.
Mhm.
So if I was to say to somebody who's if I was to say to somebody that's like, yeah, I'm really into J. Cole,
Mhm.
and they tell and like, so what, you're an artist like that? And I'm like, kind of.
Yeah.
You might want to check my stuff. If they go to Spotify and see my top 5 songs,
Yeah.
I don't get to choose that.
Right.
Just like my audience chose that, and it might not be the songs that I would show that person.
Right.
And they don't choose, like I don't choose what my top videos are.
Yeah.
I don't choose. So every now and then I'll have a moment where, like, I did 5 Fingers of Death with Sway,
Mhm.
and that was viral in the actual hip hop space.
Mhm.
I did a song with Freeway one time that was that.
Mhm.
I've had moments here and there,
Mhm.
but for the most part, it's like, even if, like, I've been claimed by an audience that has kept me alive and allowed me to do whatever I want.
Mhm.
I can say whatever I want and they won't leave me,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is dope.
Yeah.
But when other folks, like if I'm in a room with somebody performing, I can win them, I can do it.
Yeah.
But if it's not that, it's going to be really tough. And I mean, and so much of hip hop is an image thing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, man, we don't want to really admit that part of, yes, Nas is a great lyricist, but he also looks like a movie star.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a lot of it is his look. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? A lot of it, and people who don't make it as far, they just didn't have the same look or the same star quality or appeal or whatever. They just didn't do that thing. You know what I mean? And then people that don't naturally have that, they've got to adorn themselves with all the other stuff. So maybe you don't look at Jay-Z and see star. So he's like, watch, car, wife, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mansion,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? NFL deal, so and so. It's like he's got to do it in that way. And that's Jay-Z.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Like you have to give people an image thing. That's part of it. And so my image is appealing to outcast white people
Mhm.
because they feel like, yo, that could be me up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
White listeners need a different thing out of their music.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They're looking for some sort of real connection because, being white is dangerous for the soul because there's a lot of disconnection from humanity.
Mhm.
White families can be really cold. White communities can be not communities at all. It's a very lonely existence.
Mhm.
So like with their artists, and this is again painting with broad strokes, not true of everybody,
Yeah.
but a lot of times with their artists, like they like bare your soul to me
Mm.
because I don't know how to talk.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I grew up, my parents are white. I grew up in black households.
Mhm.
So I know what it's like to cry at church and everyone puts their hand on your body.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
puts a hand on you and it's
Yeah.
like, take your time.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can cry in front of everybody.
Mm.
They're going to make fun of me for it later, but it's just going to be funny.
Right.
It's going to be, they're going to give me a plate of food
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, you done boohooing and snotting and shit,
Right.
all the bubbles, snot bubbles, all in for you want some food?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
right,
like, there's going
right.
to be that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But man, white people don't have community like that.
Mm.
They don't have the type of bonds that are born out of needing to survive in that same way.
Mhm.
It's a lonely world, which is why like white podcast dudes do so great.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Joe Rogan. It's like, you know, let me hear a conversation because I might not, you know, and you know, white people hearing this are very defensive and they don't like being critiqued. Even Dave Chappelle is always like, Brother Ali is the whitest of all the whites. He can say whatever he wants. Uh, you know,
No doubt. No doubt.
he's like, you know, there'd be certain conversations or whatever, and people be like, man, I don't want to go too hard. They'll be like, give Ali the mic. He'll say that shit. At one time they were saying Pale Mooney.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Oh
It's
my
the black
gosh.
supremacy. Oh man.
That's so funny. But
But yeah, but then a black artist, like what a black listener is listening for is like, I have cousins, I have friends, I have a community. If I
Mhm.
felt like going to church, I could.
Mhm.
I like, yeah, we're all having to survive this thing. Give me some hope that
Yeah.
things might get better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, give me some hope that so it's like white fans want to see somebody on stage that knows themselves and can pour their heart out about what it all means.
Mhm.
Black people want that too, but
Mhm.
that's natural. That's much more natural for black people.
Mhm.
Whereas like for a black audience, it's like, show me something I can't do.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Both on the mic or in your business thing or in the women you get or in the life you're living or
Mhm.
in the or like we all know God. Tell me something about God I can't come up with on my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're going to talk about God, like everybody can get up and testify at church. Let me see TD Jakes do that.
Yeah.
Like you got to be either like elite level at your actual craft
Yeah.
or your lifestyle has to be something that I desire.
Yeah.
And if you got both, then you're my hero.
Yeah. Yeah. Facts. Chopping over brother Ali. Listen, bro, man, I could there's so much that I want to talk to you about. I just want to just touch on a little bit because a lot of the information is out there, but I'm interested in this. I grew up in the Christian faith, right? And I say it that way,
What denomination?
Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So, grew up
Whoa. Where?
in I was about to say in Jersey.
Uh-huh.
So,
No, what part of Jersey?
Teaneck.
Uh-huh.
So, literally, Guy O'Brien was my neighbor. His younger brother, Leo, and I were about the same age. For people who don't know, Guy O'Brien is Master G. So I grew up with like seeing Sugar Hill Records, you know, come on the scene. But I also
Mhm.
and my parents were really cool in terms of allowing me to see the world, but the idea of be in the world and not of the world.
Not of the world, yeah.
Right. And so, you know, always it was cool to be exposed to art, and I mean it was valuable to be exposed to art and culture, and it was cool to be able to write and be good in English class and write poetry.
Mm.
And okay, now I'm putting this poetry to rhythm and it becomes rap, and then okay, wait a minute, be careful now because of this, that, and the third. And balancing that as working to be a creative, and then hearing and not understanding because I grew up with some to a certain degree with blinders on, but hearing
Mhm.
I'm sorry, for me, Rakim, GOAT, period.
Yeah.
And hearing Rakim rhyme and hearing things that he said that I didn't understand, but the spirit of what he was saying was familiar to me. Hearing Big Daddy
Mhm.
Kane, then hearing Brand Nubian, then hearing, you know, so there's this thing. And then once I began to understand and feeling like, okay, well, I want to bring my belief system into it, but man, that's kind of you speak of D1, and I think D1 does it in an amazing way, representing Christianity. So all that to say, the way that you have utilized, it's not utilized, the way that you create your art and have your belief system be a part of how you create the art consistently in a fashion that is, um, I don't even know, bro, in a way that makes you want to go, huh? Like, what is that? I'm interested. Like, what does that mean? People, I don't want to come across as being preachy and this, that, and the third. And it doesn't feel that way. It feels very, you know. You can listen to this just the same way that you can listen to, the other artist that's not talking about their spirituality. And I love the way that you say that, because spirituality is not religion. Um, on that, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, man, there's a lot there.
I know that's what I was saying, bro. Like,
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, like I do think that Muslims or 5%ers don't consider themselves Muslim.
hmm
But people who are associated with Islam, whether it's Sunni Muslims, Orthodox Muslims, or the Nation of Islam, or the 5%ers, and the 5%ers have made the greatest contribution of any of us. Like they are leading the pack by it's not even close. Like
hmm
they have made the biggest. I mean, you could really say that the 5% teachings are at the spiritual heart of hip hop, without
hmm
question.
mm
It's in the language of the Zulu Nation. It's in
hmm
all of the early hip hop stuff.
hmm
DJs and b-boys and all that. Like it just is. And that's the impact also of the Nation of Islam. And it also has a lot. There's a lot of Orthodox Muslims too.
hmm
Yasin Bey,
Yes.
um, and there are guys that were either members of the 5% Nation, or there's other groups like the Moorish Science Temple of America, and also Dr. Malachi York's community, um, you know, and in Brooklyn. That's what Doom was part of. So Doom was part of Malachi York's community, and then I think considered himself a Sunni Muslim
Okay.
when he died. Same thing with Sean Price, or very similar with Sean Price.
Oh, word.
Ghostface and Raekwon both said their Shahada and became Orthodox Muslims.
hmm
Um, RZA actually recently went to Mecca, and one of our elders gave RZA his Shahada, and maybe Capadonna was with him.
hmm
But so a number of the Wu-Tang members and um, uh, two of the members, so Q-Tip and Ali Shaheed Muhammad, are both Sunni Orthodox Muslims.
Okay.
So there's a lot of us too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just, the 5%ers have done more than anybody in terms of that.
Mhm.
But so as a Muslim,
hmm
it's like it's just natural in hip hop. So like what D1 has to do to do that,
Yeah.
like he's got to almost become he's got to like be a walking billboard for Christianity,
Yeah.
because it's not normal. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
For me, it was a lot easier. I just have to be, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for Muslims, you don't have to explain why you're talking about Allah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, like I see there's this meme that goes around with that military hat,
Mhm.
and it's like dudes that jumped in the cypher, dudes that wore this hat in the 90s jump in the cypher and rap about pyramids.
Right.
Like that subsect is always, you can always talk about Allah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can always do that. And
Yeah.
it's fine. It's understood. That's one of the ways to be in hip hop.
hmm
And also that's true in the Black community as well,
Yeah.
but in hip hop specifically, so there's that.
hmm
I would say that my demo tape was called Rites of Passage that I
Mhm.
did in 2000. That's the
Mhm.
first thing I ever did. And I was really inspired. I remain really inspired by Mos Def, Yasin Bey.
Yeah.
Um, for me, it's like, it's a tough one, because he could be my GOAT very easily any day of the week,
Mhm.
but so could Rakim.
Mhm.
And then there's times where like I don't agree worldview wise with Jay-Z.
Mhm.
I've been in rooms with him. He's one of the people that I'm not trying to be his friend.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not that I had you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been like in close proximity, and I'm like, some people I feel I need to talk to.
Mhm.
Other people I love them, look up to them,
Mhm.
but I don't feel like I need to know them.
Mhm.
I want to know Young Guru.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's who I want to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In his circle, in his camp.
Mhm.
And I want to know Jay Electronica.
Yeah.
Like that's who I want to know.
Yes. Yeah.
But man, Yasin, that Black Star album, I was like, this guy sounds like that's the type of Muslim I am. That's the type of man I am.
Mhm.
We're family people. We're not perfect.
Mhm.
We're not angels. We're not
Mhm.
saints. We're not the picture of what a Muslim should be,
Mhm.
but we are dedicated to our faith, and we want to live it sincerely.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be lewd and cuss a lot and da da da. So on my first project, I sound a lot like Yasin and Kweli and Common and Tariq and Black Thought. Those
Mhm.
are the people. Those are the last people I ever sounded like before I found my own voice.
Yeah.
But then once I started making records with the Rhymesayers guys, then I was on the road. I was away from the Muslim community. I was around a lot of just different influences. And so I started cussing a lot. And actually, when I first met Evidence was laughing at me. And I was like, why are you laughing at me? He's like, you're the only conscious rapper I know that curses more than a gangster rapper. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but it's cool. I know why you do it. I said, why? He's like, because you're in this world. You don't smoke. You don't drink. You don't chase women. You know what I mean? So he's like, you curse to try to be accepted in this world of like wild, crazy dudes that you're around.
It's interesting.
And he's like, but someday you're going to stop. He told me that the first night I met him. It was me and him and Little Brother doing a show together at Irving it was either Irving Plaza or the Bowery or one of those places in New York. The first time I met him, Highline. We were at Highline Ballroom. He was like, the first time I met him, he told me that, and I was like, all right, you want to be friends? You know what I mean? Like, you sound like you know who I am.
Yeah.
And so yeah, man, and it ended up being true. And so I cursed a lot at the beginning. And then I stopped, and I went through a period where, like, I went on Hajj, and it like reinvigorated my faith, I would say. And then I had to seek out community, and I really like put myself around people. There's a great poet who I think is the greatest poet alive on earth named Amir Suleiman, and he is somebody also that I look up to. He's somebody that, like, depending on what circle you're in, he's like me and my friends. Like, either you're nervous to be around him, or you have no idea who he is. There's no middle of the road. So yeah, I mean, it's been a thing, but it's one of the things too where I'm like, man, the fan base that I have, as long as they feel like I'm being sincere, they'll go wherever I want to go. I can get very political, and it's not their politics. And I can get very spiritual, and it's not their religion. And I can get like, it's those kind of people that are just like, hey man, as long as you're pouring your heart out, as long as I feel the common humanity, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. That's so powerful, bro. Listen, man, a couple more things, and thank you so much for the time.
And I'm not in a hurry. Like, okay. We can stretch out a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm having a good time.
I wanted to okay, so the project came out, and I was like, because you had talked about it, and sort of how it came together, and the way that you felt about it, and I tapped in, but I didn't dive in until
you talking about Satisfied Soul or Love and Service?
No. I'm talking about Love and Service. I'm gonna come back to Satisfied Soul, but I dove in, and it's interesting I bring it up because you meant. Well, let me just say this, and I tell artists this all the time. When I get a record, what I typically try to do now is go back to listening to music the way I used to. I try to hit play on track 1 and then go all the way through, and then
keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
No skipping, no.
Just that's my goal. But then I also look for what's the joint that makes me go, nope, got to rewind, got to listen to that one again. Or
that's different. Rewinding is different.
Right.
That's a totally different part of the brain.
Yes, exactly.
Scrolling and scratch. Yeah, different.
On this project, bro, Howlin' Wolf. That's the joint.
Dope.
That's the joint.
That makes me so happy,
bruh. Like, and not just like, oh, let me go listen. No, like, okay, it's on repeat. Like, I'm listening to this song for like 15 minutes, just over and over and over again.
Man, unJUST the producer, that's his favorite one on there too. Like,
is that right?
He'll be really happy to hear that.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up, bro. So, so two things, I guess, and one, this may be more a question for unJUST, but can you talk about the penning of that song from the writer's perspective, and then something else I just want to ask you about on that song?
Yeah, so that one, that's the first song me and him made. So I made, when I moved to Istanbul at the end of 2020, first I went to Yellow Springs and I was with Dave Chappelle and Kweli and Mo Amer and Donnell and Michelle Wolf, the comedian, and like all these amazing people. And he was having all these, like, he's having our whole community come in and out. I was also there with David Banner, who's like, I love David Banner so much. Like, it's my friend. And I was just leaving Rhymesayers at that time, and I was terrified and I was sad. I had to mourn leaving Rhymesayers and like grieve, because I love those people. I still do.
Yeah.
And they love me. And I'm still good with 90% of the people. Another 10%, we don't talk. And I know they're as heartbroken as I am. It hurts. Like, it really hurts.
Yeah.
And this is just how the world is and how people are. We're complicated, and nobody had any bad intentions. It just didn't work out. We all did what we thought was best, and it was best for some and not for others. And then I did what was best for me, and it hurt them. So it's just hard, man. But I went to Yellow Springs to be with Dave right before coming to Turkey. And it just made me feel like, no, you are the real thing, and you can do whatever you want. I can do whatever. I can do this.
Yeah.
It gave me I don't hang out with Dave all the time. I can't call him. He calls you. It's that type of thing. But he does. And, but that week that I was there, really changed my life. And so I get to Istanbul. You're going to know, I don't know if everybody listening will know, but Paris is one of the like super revolutionary artists that we love.
Yeah.
I saw he had a new song with a video, this animated video and this weird beat. And I was like, yo, what is this? And I saw that this guy named unJUST did the video. So I reached out to him, and I'm just looking at his Instagram, I'm like, wait, he makes these weird kind of beats, and he makes these weird like hand-drawn videos. So I hit him up. I'm like, yo, who are you? You're ill. You're dope.
Yeah.
And he said, man, I'm a huge fan of yours. I said, wow. All right, let's do something. And so he said, I want to do a project. Let me send you some joints. I said, all right, I just moved to Istanbul, Turkey. I don't even have a couch in my house. I have no way to record. Like, give me a minute to get set up. He said, all right, how long do you need? I said, give me a month. He hit me back a calendar month later with a folder of 30 beats. I was like, I made these for you. Nobody's going to hear them. I want to make an album with you. And I'm going to animate and illustrate the videos. I said, oh, okay.
That's fire.
And I said, well, I just moved. He said, I just moved too. I've been living in the Bay, but I just moved back to this place called Yellow Springs, Ohio. I said, damn, I just came from Yellow Springs. So he's from Dayton. He's from that area.
That's crazy.
So he just moved. So, and then I spent a lot of time in the Bay like that. Me and my family almost moved to the Bay at one point. So like we got all these connections, and like one of the shows I did with Rakim, unJUST was at that show in the Bay. And there was like this whole episode that unfolded that night with the Black Panthers and the police and all this stuff. Whoa. So like we were connected. He's like, yo, I saw you perform at Scribble Jam in Ohio in 2000. I was a kid, you know what I mean? So anyway, we ended up making this project where, to soothe myself from the pain of everything I was going through, I would sit with his music, and it was like oddly soothing for me. Because there was something disjointed about it, but there was something also that really felt soothing. And so I didn't write those songs. When you said pin them, I didn't. I only sat and wrote one song on that record. All the other ones I sat with this same podcast mic in this chair, and I put the beat on, and I just vibe for a minute, think of 4 bars, go to the computer, record those 4 bars, stop, think of the next 4, record those, think of the next 4, record those. By the time I'm done with the song, I don't even remember what I said at the beginning of the song. And I'm just like, this feels done. I feel better now. The song's done. And I sent it to him, and he's like, yo. So the first one was Howlin' Wolf. And when I say rock and moan like the Howlin' Wolf, I was seeing a therapist named Resma Minikin, who's a racialized trauma specialist. And he's like, man, you're in another country. I can't hug you. But man, hug yourself and love yourself. And when you cry, cry. Like, man, he said, rock and moan. It helps with the somatic, like, and I did. And I still do. Like, there's times where I'm like, oh, I need to cry. And I rock and moan, you know what I mean? Just like, and when he says that, it's like, okay, I grew up around Black aunties and grandmothers and stuff. I know what that looks like. That's where I learned how to do it. And so that's what that song is, rock and moan. And I was thinking about the blues artist Howlin' Wolf. You know what I mean? So I don't mean, I'm thinking about, oh, like,
Yeah, yeah.
rocking and moaning
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like just get the pain out, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So
It's
yeah, man, and man, nobody even really people didn't really respond to that record, that album.
yeah.
Even though Rock Marciano was on it,
Yeah,
Aesop Rock is on it,
yeah.
Casual, Quelle Chris, all these
Mhm,
amazing people are on it,
mhm.
but, it just did, and I had one of the only songs about Palestine
Yeah,
that hit right when when it was happening
yeah.
and when it started, and, it just got like, we tried to release it ourselves, and
Mhm.
it, we just, I don't know, dropped the ball or something, but it's rare that people connect with that record, so it means a
Yeah.
lot that you're saying that.
Yeah,
I'm
bro.
down to talk about that for as much as you want.
Look, well, and so one of the things that's interesting, and like I said, maybe this is more of a question for unJUST, but listening to, and I would say I feel this way listening. There's a couple of joints on here that I feel this way about, but specifically with Howlin' Wolf, because the way that my brain works is, you know, I lyricism is very important to me. Uh, Content is very important to me, but I'm also like I'm a human being, and like if you got the if
Mhm.
you got the joint that makes my head nod, okay, you got me. And sometimes that's what gets me, and then brings me back and brings me back, and then I connect with the lyrics, right? But at any rate, in terms of production, I feel like there's a little bit of a Doom. You mentioned Doom. There's a little bit of a Doom influence on the production, and then you also mentioned
Definitely.
Jay Electronica. It's like, man, that's reminiscent of some of the stuff that Jay rhymes over. Um,
Yeah.
did you guys? And you did an interview with him on the podcast, right? With unJUST,
Yes.
and I don't think
Yeah.
I listened
Yeah,
through
we
to
did
that
a
one. So he
whole
may have talked
thing.
about his production style, but was that something? Is that something that he ever talked about in terms of his influences of production? And does that resonate with this project?
Yeah, and he's close with Rock Marciano.
Uh huh.
He's part of Hieroglyphics, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So he's
word.
close with all of those guys. And like Quelle Chris,
Yeah,
who's another one
yeah.
that I think there's this style of hip hop production in general that's like we grew up making pause tapes and we
Mhm.
grew up, making lo-fi because that's what we had available to us.
Yeah,
And we loved a lot of music and that's the music our friends made.
yeah.
So it's like I think that style of music doesn't resonate with the ears of my Rhymesayers fans
Mhm, mhm,
because I always felt like Rhymesayers, I couldn't put words to it until I put the Love and Service album out. But
mhm,
I was like, oh, like what Motown did for black music in the 60s and 70s,
mhm.
Rhymesayers did for underground rap in the 2000s.
Mm.
Where it's like, there's amazing stuff happening here, but the sonics just aren't accessible to the mainstream.
Right,
So they took these singers that, like, if Aretha Franklin had been on Stax, it would have been a different sound,
right, right.
But they put her in this glossy sounding environment
Mhm,
and made these big, quick, hook driven, up tempo records. They're happy. You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
not gonna sound like Syl Johnson. There's not
mhm.
gonna be, is it because I'm black? None of that.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about what's going on in the world, you better mask it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You better when they say dancing in the streets, they say that's about the riots that were going on. But she was saying dancing in the street. So people are like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
the blacks get together and dance in the
Right,
street. I want
right,
to be part of that. But
right,
like she's talking about riots, they
right,
said.
right. That's
You know.
crazy.
But like Rhymesayers did a lot of that for underground rap. And
Yeah.
so when I made that thing with unJUST, part of it was just I think that a lot of my listeners were used to hearing this big lush production where there's samples, but there's a live bass playing along with it, and
Mhm,
there might be a choir and some strings and all kind of stuff.
mhm,
But I was thinking like, man, for those of us that grew up making rap music before computers,
mhm, mhm,
that's what our friends' music, like when we traded like tapes with each other,
mhm,
that's what it sounded like, and that's
mhm,
what it felt like.
mhm,
And there was a certain way of like knowing how to make a paused mixtape sound good
mhm.
and sound like a real thing. And so that's what that whole genre of music reminds me of. What
Yeah.
Alchemist is doing now, and what Rock Marciano does, and to a certain degree Griselda.
Uh-huh.
Exile always had that feel to me,
Yeah.
even though Exile has an energy sometimes that reminds me of Ant and Rhymesayers. I think
Mhm.
me and Exile would make a great record together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and man, I love Blue and I love Fashion.
Mhm.
I love all. I mean, Exile is amazing. He's a beautiful person too.
Yeah. They come to Portland all the time, and I haven't
But
had a
yeah,
chance to connect with them yet.
I just think it's that type of thing where like that sound for people that ever were into hip hop before the CDs really, and before it sounded like Dre, when it still sounded like, you know, even Public Enemy sounds like a cassette. You know what I mean? It's like the music that and if something sounded too polished, it was like, oh, they're trying to cross over.
Yes.
Maybe that's not for us.
Yeah.
Which is another thing where like, you know, the stuff I made on Rhymesayers has white sonics and white sensibilities. It's mixed by a guy who's an amazing engineer. I love him. Joe Mabbitt mixes most of Ant stuff. But he comes from rock.
Yeah.
And so he mixes it with a rock sensibility and sensitivity. The album you're talking about where you started listening, Jake One made those beats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then Eddie Sancho mixed it, who mixed Premiere stuff, and he mixes a lot of Alchemist stuff. It's different sonics too. That's like, there's a lot of reasons why people gravitate towards different things, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it is, you know, from my perspective, when we tap into whatever it is we're thinking about, what drew me in, and that can become the foundation of, you know, I've been out here in Portland for 3 decades now, but I tell people I still have, you know, when people release music, even if they're not from the Northeast, but it has that sensibility, I'm always, because that's, you know what I mean? That's where that sort of tuned my ear to this art form.
Man, and Vitamin D from Seattle is one of the great unsung legends, man. You talking about of anybody who needs their flowers.
Yeah.
Just if we're just talking about the actual work, you know what I mean? But you don't get to hear a lot of his beats, you know?
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people that are like, man, I want to make an album with Vita. It's hard to get him to send me the sessions. It's hard to get him to, you know, like I was saying earlier, like whenever somebody's talent doesn't match their thing, sometimes it's like, man, I wonder if if Jake One, on the other hand, will tell you every day, like Jake One is not you know, he'll tell you like, man, Vita is better than me.
Yeah.
But Jake is on top of his business, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, man, Vitamin D, that sound he got, man, is incredible.
So just because you brought him up, man, when was it? Was it a week ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago. Versatile from the Lifesavers. Verse is the homie. So I've like, all glory to God, man. I've had an opportunity to spin for Verse for the last year or so. Verse did a show here.
Like you play live together?
Yeah. Verse did a show here in Portland. Brought J-Rock up to and the idea was we gonna do this. So J-Rock, Rep Shines, and Versatile. That was the show. Then he hits me and he's like, yo, Vita's coming down. Vita came down, did a set with DJ Top Shelf. Bro, just like so.
He was spinning or rhyming or playing beats, or like he can do it all.
He can do it all. That's what I'm saying, bro. He could do it all.
He could play the drums. He could do like he could play all the music. He's an amazing rapper. Like he's an amazing MC. Like,
yeah. Well, and in this show, all he did was rap. All he did was rap.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna ask me?
I was gonna ask, did you ever hear the project he made? It was like he kept bringing in, it was like a birthday theme kind of thing. So it sounded like a family reunion where someone was singing the Stevie Wonder, happy birthday to you. But it sounded like his uncle or something singing. But man, he had a thing on there called, he had a song about, who that bitch? Who that bitch? Man, it was like a 5 or 6 song EP. It came out in like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, I'm like in that time where like all of these people were blowing up. I'm just like, dude, the world is really sleeping on Vita, man.
Yeah.
Vitamin D.
Yeah.
One of the true greats. I mean, he's an engineer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He'll mix your record and make it sound amazing. Like, he's just a special dude, man.
Bro, Verse.
And he's fly. Like sometimes you look at people and it's like, oh, it's not a good image. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like he's got his own fly style of dressing and like everything. It's like my friend Musab from Rhymesayers is like that. Yeah. Musab is like amazing MC, incredible lyricist.
Yeah.
He looks like he looks like he could be related to Nas.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm,
He's like a beautiful man,
yeah,
like got the gift of gab, super intelligent,
yeah.
he's hilarious, he's
Mhm,
engaging.
mhm.
It's like what happened? I You know what I'm saying? Like why?
Yeah,
And he makes a lot of music. He's professional. He be on time. He's
yeah,
like everything. You're like, man, why?
yeah.
What's why?
Bruh, listen, and that I mean, and that's the interesting thing, and not to be, and it's challenging sometimes because you feel like I'm so happy for anyone who has an opportunity to fulfill their dreams and get out there and do the situation. But it does
Mhm.
make you go, but why you? Like, why are you getting so much recognition? And I hate saying that because sometimes it sounds like negativity and I don't want to be in that
Right.
space. But it's what you're saying though. How come this person and not that person? And as a man of faith, I feel like there's a reason that we just can't understand, right? It's
Yeah.
happening because it's happening the way that it's happening because that's the way that it's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
you know,
Man, the Prophet Muhammad said that God marvels at people being dragged to paradise in chains.
mm,
That's a hardcore saying. It's like,
mm,
ugh.
yeah,
But it's like I got a friend who has a son who's severely like developmentally disabled.
hmm,
He's got special needs, and and my friend was like, he's this beautiful dude.
hmm,
He used to have a job traveling the world doing sound, and
hmm,
it was a great job,
hmm,
and now he can't do that because he stays home and every night he's taking care of his son,
yeah,
and and there's times where I'm like, man, he wouldn't have chosen that.
hmm,
But it's like, man, when he meets the creator of us all at the end of it all, it's like, man, you will have spent your entire adult life caring for another vulnerable human being just out of love and out of goodness.
yeah, yeah,
Dragged into paradise in chains. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's like for some of us, it's like you see the things that happen to people that get famous.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not good for most people's soul.
yeah,
Not that because there is that thing where like all of us have the human condition. We all have got these low desires. And most of us are guarded by the fact that we can't just fulfill our low desires whenever we want to.
yeah.
Who's the prophet in the Bible that the devil says it's only the protective hedge around him?
That's
And if you take that away,
Job. That's the story of
yeah,
Job.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, you take that hedge away,
Hmm.
he'll be the worst. He'll be the worst one in the world,
God said,
And
test
it's
them,
like, man,
test them, and let's see.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's like, man, a lot of us we probably didn't need those tests,
Yeah.
you
Facts.
know? And
Facts.
the it sounds like to hear somebody else would be like, man, that's just what people say when they didn't make it.
Yeah.
That's just something a starving artist says. Okay,
Hmm.
fine. But I know and I mentioned Chappelle because he's a beautiful guy. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that got famous
Hmm.
and they're in turmoil.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's a lot more people that could be canceled, you
Hmm.
know what I mean, than R. Kelly and Puff. And like they reached the highest heights, so they got to take that to the highest heights.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of people that I'm like, man, there are people that are, uncomfortable around me, and they have, 100 times the success I have.
Hmm.
And if I walk in a room, they're uncomfortable because they're like, damn, that guy stuck to his morals, and I know I did a bunch of questionable stuff to get where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Oh, bro. Again, could go forever, but which actually leads me to the Travelers Podcast.
Okay.
So, just want to make sure anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't yet, definitely subscribe to the Travelers Podcast. It's so dope. The interviews that you have done, bro. Like the interviews that you've done are dope. Just like the monologues that you do, where it's just you talking into the microphone, are just as amazing. Um, just finished listening to the last episode that you did where it was just you and Ant, which was really, really dope. And I have to smile listening to it because you said, okay, so it's not edited, it's just us talking talking into the joints. It was funny because Ali, I don't edit. Like this is like what we're doing right now, this is what's released. because DJ Klyph Productions is just me. So I get it when it's just, you know what I mean? So anyway.
You can't edit. You
Oh my
cannot
gosh,
schedule
bro.
this, do the thing, and edit it. It can't happen.
No.
I mean, it's not with you having a job or a family or anything else. Like that would be your full-time gig and it wouldn't be sustainable.
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly. But I loved so much that interview because I tell people all the time, whether it's the podcast or the radio show, I'm just having a conversation with somebody. There just happen to be microphones. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it came across. And it was such an amazing conversation that you guys had. To keep it 100 with you, that actually really introduced me to Ant. I know of Atmosphere. I've played Atmosphere joints on the radio show, but I've never delved into the catalog. And after hearing that interview, it makes me want to go listen to, like, not because I'm playing it on the radio. It makes me want to go listen to Atmosphere. It makes me want to go listen to the instrumental projects that he's working on releasing right now. But for two human beings to be in a room and to be able to express their love and support of one another and share it with the world, bro, how amazing is that? It was such a great episode, bro.
Man, and that's just, in terms of conversations that me and him have, first of all, that's every time I'm around this man. Anytime I'm in the same state as this man, that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that wasn't the deepest one. That was us knowing the mic is on.
Yeah.
And just trying to keep it about public subjects, you know?
Yeah.
The level of conversation that I have, I mean, literally, I have no secrets from that man. He knows everything about me. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything he doesn't know, I just haven't got a chance to tell him yet. But I have zero secrets from him.
Yeah.
He knows all my contradictions, all my flaws. He knows all the ways I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. He knows all the things about me that nobody would expect. Mm-hmm. And he'll tell me like, you hear how blunt he is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You know, he'll be like, oh yeah, you lost half your fan base because you kept talking about your politics all the time. Yeah. And then you took long breaks and people just, people stopped messing with you. Mm-hmm. And he'll tell me all the time, like, man, you know, you're a beautiful dude, but I always wonder if you also got a venom too. Mm-hmm. And he's like, whenever I haven't seen you for a minute, I never know if you're going to turn that venom on me. I'm like, damn, I hate that because I love him more than anybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I would never do that. But you know, and the music that we've made together it starts with those conversations. Yeah. And so that's why when I make music with him, I just can't do that with that level with anybody else. And then what I did with unJUST, what I did with Evidence, what I did with Jake One, you know, there's other artists. There's all kind of artists, man. I would love to do. Are you familiar with Stolen Drums?
No.
Oh, Stolen Drums is a man.
Okay.
Yeah, Stolen Drums is a whole community too. Like he's a guy. He's from Atlanta. Okay. He's a producer, engineer. He's got a super dope presence on social media. We've texted each other. I don't actually know him yet, but you know, there's people that's like. So just talking to you, I'm like, oh, we already know each other. Like we're already friends. It's like that's, you know what I mean. Same thing. With him, same way. I just was watching him. I'm like, I already know you. We're gonna make it out together. It's gonna be the greatest thing ever. But he's incredible. Soundtrack. I want to do an album. Soundtrack.
Yes,
sir. You know about Soundtrack?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yes, sir.
Man, Soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Man, I love Crisis. Yep. You know, Crisis from Ninth Wonder's crew. Yeah, from the Justice League. Amazing. Yeah. You know, but with Ant, there's just like it's our bond is different. Yeah. It's just an impossible, like that literally is the guy that I can spend days, weeks around him and I'm always happy. Mm-hmm. I'm never like, okay, this is a little much. Mm-hmm. Never. Mm-hmm. I've never had enough Ant. There is not enough Ant for me. Yeah. That's dope. Just the man, the person. It's never enough for me. Yeah, and I always be wanting the world to hear him more. Yeah. And you know, and I think that maybe me stepping away and doing my own thing and having this podcast and stuff, maybe that's part of why he's stepping out. He's releasing his own music and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not the reason. No. But I think it's definitely in there. And so I'm so happy for him to be talking because he came on my tour and did a DJ set and a producer set. He's never done that. Yeah. He talked to the audience. He hosted the show. Yeah. He would never do that. Towards the end of the tour, he started coming out from around the turntables and dancing to his own music. I'm like, man, he never did that. So I'm like seeing him, like, and he's 6, 7 years older than me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I met him, I was 19, 20, and he's like 25, 26.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys were all grown to me when I met them. I had dad issues with a lot of those dudes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cause my dad wasn't like that for me.
Yeah.
And so I was like seeking out father figures, and I'd been working on it in therapy in my 40s, but
Yeah.
he was one, and Slug was one, and Sadiq, who runs the label, those were all kind of like father figures to me.
Yeah.
And, so to be at a space now where me and Ant are actually like we're peers.
Yeah.
It just and I can actually influence him, and I can offer him something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I can bring, not that he needs the money, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But if he comes on tour with me, he will make more money. I can pay him now.
Right. Right.
If we make an album together, I can pay him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's dope, man. It's one of the things that, you just have a friendship like that for 20 some years, man. It just very, very special.
Yeah. And it definitely comes across in those conversations. And, to hear you guys talk about, it was really fun to hear you guys holding back, right? Because you start talking about making the project and like, oh wait, nope, the project's not out yet. Let's not go song to song. Let's just, touch on the songs that have been released, which by the way, what is it? Drums was the next single that you guys just released. Just today, I think, or maybe it was yesterday. But it was so dope to hear. And we talked about this a little bit on the radio interview, the passion that you folk have for this particular album, Satisfy Soul, that drops on Valentine's Day on February 14th, which is really, really cool. And the fact that you have made music together for literally for decades and are still as passionate about the art that you're creating together today. I'm so excited for the album, bro. I'm so excited to hear the whole thing.
I appreciate that so much. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you got like, we're still self-motivated. Like it's still like the desire to keep going and to like, it's still coming from within us. You know what I mean? And that's just like, to still be excited to make music, to talk about music, to go on tour, and that's part of why I said I had a bit of a depression, I think, when I came out of that tour, because I was just like, that's probably not going to happen again. You know what I mean? Like just being on tour with Ant, being there with the guy, like it's so much to me to be on stage and to turn around and it's like, man, that's the dude I made all the music with. He's right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's just like, oh, get him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so ill, man. It's such a great feeling. And, that he's part of Atmosphere. And like, he's, that's, and I love that. Like, Atmosphere are my heroes, man. I'm the biggest Atmosphere fan on earth. I don't think there's a bigger Atmosphere fan than me. So I love that, but that was a very, very special thing. And then, just being so in love with the process and feeling so grateful to be able to do it. And then, going on that tour. And honestly, when you said to me the other day, we did the talk for the radio, I met people on this tour that listened to my podcast. I've been doing the podcast a couple of years and never was like face to face with the people that listen. So I didn't know it was that serious to people. And so that helped a lot. And then honestly, when you said to me the other day, we love the episodes where you're just talking to us. It's like, okay, good. Because sometimes I wonder, sometimes I'm like, man, I'm doing that because I didn't get a guest booked, but I still want to put an episode out. And sometimes I really have stuff I just want to open up about.
Yeah.
But so you saying that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like, okay, those episodes have value. So
yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely, bro. And I think that for me, it's an extension of what you do in the art that you create, because you make music that is about your experience. I mean, if you listen to the way that you write, it is about your experience. And so when it's just you and the microphone, I feel like it's continuing the story, right? Because if I listen to a project that you dropped 10 years ago, well, you're 10 years removed from that. But when you're on the microphone, You're talking about where you are in your process right now. And then when Satisfied Soul releases, okay, then that's sort of, it's just the story just continues. And I think that it's a really dope way to do what you do.
Man, thank you. Yeah, I can't wait for you to hear it.
Yeah.
We gotta see if I think Brendan has a link that he could send you.
Oh, word.
So you can just hear it now. You know what I mean?
That's what's up. That's what's
You
up.
can't play it on the radio quite
No.
yet.
We're gonna keep that close to the vest. Bro, before I let you go, man, I meant to look because I actually don't know. Have you ever done anything with Homeboy Sandman?
So I took him on one of his early tours, probably not the first one.
Okay.
But when Morning in America came out, the album you're talking about, he was the support on that tour.
Okay.
But no, we haven't made music together. So the album that we put out earlier this year called Love and Service, there's a song on there called Ghosts, and it's about people ghosting each other. And Quelle Chris is on it, but I wanted that one to be Quelle Chris and Homeboy Sandman.
Got you.
And when I hit him up about it, he heard me rapping about like apps, and he's not an app dude.
Not at all.
Like even in those days, he was not on Twitter. Yeah. He's not like, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Which is, man, he is so dope.
Bruh.
Homeboy Sandman is one of those dudes that like,
yeah.
To me, it's like he's there with Doom.
Yes.
And he's there with Sean Price.
Yeah.
Like I hope he lives to be a old man and dies in his wife's arms in his bed. You know, but if he were to die now, everybody would suddenly snap into what a genius he is.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those people that's just like, and he has a career and people love him. Very similar. Like I went on tour with Sean Price. That was my that was my friend. I went on tour with Doom. That was my friend. But I remember what it was like when they were alive.
Yeah.
And they had their hardcore fans.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like it is. I see Doom, you know, doing, I see they did a thing at Camp Flognaw with this big orchestra. And it was so dope. And Badu is there singing, and it's like, I love that. But it wasn't like that when I was on tour with Doom. The only person tripping on Doom like that was Yasin Bey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody else was like, everybody was just like, oh, that's just another dope rapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except there were Doom fans. There were like crazy Doom fans.
Right.
But it wasn't Cool People. It wasn't Camp Flognaw. You know what I mean? And I will say Tyler and them were on Doom.
Yeah.
So everything about that was genuine. Tyler, we met Tyler and Earl and all those guys when they were first coming out, and they were on Doom like that.
Yeah.
Like I was, you know, like when they were all about Doom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was Idea was a legend like that died early, and you know, I was around him when he was doing his thing, and there were people that were all about it, but not like something about when you die.
Yeah.
If you die tragically, that's the only way that a super underground artist gets their props.
Yeah.
You got to die to get your props.
Yeah. Which is sad, and we see it in so many aspects of life, whether we're talking about sports or film or music or whatever the case may be. People are celebrated in death, and you know, I don't know. I'm sure that there's something to that. Which is, for me, one of the reasons again, man, all glory to God. I'm so grateful for these platforms, because I mean, never to the degree of even signing a record deal or anything, just putting out demo tapes. I remember what it was like to be in that place where, man, I just want somebody to listen. I just want somebody to hear. And when God gifted me these platforms, I felt like, okay, I now have the opportunity to make sure that people are here. I mean, anybody who listens to any of my radio shows over the last 15 years, like, you've probably heard all of Homeboy Sandman's catalog, because I play all of, like, you're definitely going to hear, you know what I mean? Like that's I don't want people to have to wait until. That being said,
and I mean, you're amazing at this, by the way. Like I'm on the other end of this, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I feel so comfortable, and I feel like, you know, I can feel like I can say or do whatever. And I feel like I don't have to explain it to you. I don't have to worry about you misunderstanding. Like, I feel completely comfortable and on the same page.
That's what's up, bro. I appreciate it.
And that's it. You know what I mean? And also, you don't have to edit these because you know how to keep a conversation moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's
dope.
I thank you, bro.
So can I ask you,
yes,
what artists do I need to be checking for? Like, you know who we have in common and who we like and stuff. Yeah. Like, what am I sleeping on?
Probably one of the cats that I'm really sort of working to champion right now is a young cat named London Bernard. He's based out of Atlanta. Um, really has such respect for the art form. Amazingly talented. Kind of that like really carrying forward. What I believe is the greatest sort of aesthetic and feel of what we do. So London Bernard is a cat that I would say tap in with. From a local standpoint, Win is an artist, a young lady who is just a beast on the microphone, um, and is also doing a great job of navigating a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, really navigating the machine,
Mhm.
um, but is still true to like.
Is she light skinned and have natural hair and it's like big and puffy in the back?
No, she like, bruh,
Okay, I'm
Win is
thinking
a
about something else. I'm
yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
somebody else.
Win is a see, she's a Caucasian. She's a white young lady. Um,
Okay.
just dope. Just like the first time I heard her, my homie Star Child, rest in peace, introduced me to her. Um, she dropped this joint, 6 minutes, no hook, just straight bars, and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, okay, yes, thank you, all day." So she's somebody that who I really like. So much of what I've done has been with local artists. Mike Capes is a cat from Portland, who's dope. A cat who's sort of in and out in terms of making music. Hanif used to go by Luck One. Um, um, uh, got me on the spot, bro. I'll send you. I'll just start
No, yeah,
linking you some
in the
stuff.
hot seat,
Yeah,
it's always tough.
yeah. I'll try to send you some links to some folk who are sort of on the come up. Some folk who are just everything that we've talked about. Who I use the platform to promote and push out there for real.
That's what's up. Yeah, I would have thought there would be more white women with more of a voice by now. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
just with the way that things go, I just thought that would be more because like there's definitely been some like super dope rappers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Eternia
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
others. And I'm like, man, I would have thought by now that there would be a lot more.
Yeah.
That there would be a lot more people that would have a thing happening. But so yeah, that's dope.
Man, I'm gonna have to ask you to come back for a part 2 because there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I want to be respectful of your time and just once again, brother, say thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for continuing to make the art, which is. Let me just ask you this last thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With we've put this. We've celebrated the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So hip hop is middle age now. Whatever that means, right? In terms of the actual date and this, that, and the third. You are an artist who's made music for a very long time. But you have shared through your music and you have shared on your platform, including doing the tour, including coming out on tour. You shared how some of the challenges that you had to navigate just in traveling.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to maintain the love of maybe that's not the way to ask it. I know so many people who have just been like, okay, that's it, I'm out. I just people aren't resonating with it, or it's how have you done it?
Man, I would say the closest that I ever got to stopping
Mm-hmm.
was not that long ago. Like when we put that Love and Service album out,
Yeah.
like I really, I'm pretty certain they never tell you, but I'm pretty certain that the jam up that we had, a lot of it had to do with the fact that I made that album with an anti-Zionist Jewish brother, and we were talking explicitly about Palestine.
Hmm.
I'm fairly certain that that's why, and I don't name names so people can,
Yeah.
but I didn't get booked for a show for a year. I had a solid calendar year of not one paid gig for an entire year, which is unheard of for me.
Yeah.
There was a company that was supposed to release both of these albums, Love and Service and Satisfied Soul.
Mm.
They were happy that we played the music. They said they had goosebumps. We've been working with these people a long time, like we've known them.
Mm-hmm.
and they're also very prominent. I won't say more than that because again, I'm not going to name names, so they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Because I just don't get down like that. But they're very influential and instrumental in the world that I'm in. And they're just one example, but they just ghosted us. Like after October 7th, they just ghosted us, and their executives were making content about the fact that they were very pro-Israel and seemed to have no care for the Palestinians whatsoever. And then, and I've been talking about Palestine for 15, 20 years. And then, we hired a high price publicity person that literally I paid tens of thousands of dollars, got nothing. Not I went from Rolling Stone, which I used to do every time. And I'm not naming names. People don't have to worry. I will not name your name. But I know the person at Rolling Stone who's written about me since day one, and he loves me.
Yeah.
And he didn't write about me. And the fact that this happened across the board. And then the person who books all of the biggest shows in our biggest market. I was on tour with Living Legends and Grouch. He talked to the Grouch, and he's like, you have to tell Ali, stop talking about Palestine on stage. You know what I mean? And the levels of conflicts of interest and, all this stuff. Now I am certain that album got shut down because of us talking about Palestine. And also I was being shadow banned on social media for the same reason. You start talking about that, I've been talking about issues my whole career.
Right.
The faucet gets turned all the way off. And that now I know that's what it was. But while I was going through it, it was a solid year of having great music. I mean, Rock Marciano is on my album, and you know what I mean? Like, why can't I get anybody to mention this?
Right.
And so during that time, I was like, oh, I don't think people care about this anymore. And, and I just was like, I should probably quit. Because I also love talking about Islam. Like, I preached 3 times on this last tour. It was only 22 cities. I preached every week on that tour. I was South Central LA, South Side of Chicago, and Minneapolis, and I could have done one every Friday if I wanted to. Like, I love doing that. I will talk about my religion all day. Like, I love it. Like a chaplain, you know what I'm saying? I love it. And I'm probably gonna go back to school and get a chaplain license, actually.
Oh, word.
But man, so I was like, my sheikh from West Africa came to town, my spiritual guide. And he actually stayed at my house. And I was like, I kind of think maybe I'm supposed to quit. I told him, like, I haven't had a paycheck in a year.
Yeah.
And it seems like people don't like this anymore. And the reason for me doing it was that it was touching people's hearts. And if it's not doing that anymore, maybe I should quit. And I said, do you have advice for me? And he said, yeah, my advice for you is have a good opinion of God. And I was like, okay. It's the end of that conversation. Have a good opinion of God.
Word.
Damn.
Period.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Want some coffee?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that conversation is over.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh yeah, like, you don't realize, like, man, because what else is worrying and despairing and fretting and stressing? And it's like, ultimately, God is writing all of this.
Right.
So what am I accusing God of preemptively? You know what I'm saying? Like, by worrying. What am I accusing God of?
Yeah.
Have a good opinion of God. Yes, sir. That's all right. Mic drop.
Well,
and so and so then it's like, yes, you know what I mean? And then we started the run for this tour, and we did the thing with Ant. And Ant was telling me, like, man, he's like, everybody knows how you feel politically. He's like, I don't think you should do politics on this record. And so I don't talk about it directly. I talk about it indirectly always, because it's just who I am.
Right.
But like, there's not really direct political stuff on this record as much. And I started seeing people start to come back around. The people who are locking me out love me personally.
Yeah.
It's just that either they are uncomfortable with what I was saying, or their sponsors, their community, their, it's like the individuals, and then even we started working this record. I will say we're partnering with Mellow Music, who does Homeboy Sandman and Quelle Chris and Odyssey and Paulo Brown and JB. All these people. You know JB? You mess with JB?
Bro, JB is yes. JB is.
He's been doing it a long time, but man, so you mess with JB and you mess with Mally.
Yeah, Mally's the homie.
Okay, because those are my two where I'm like, everybody needs to know these guys.
Yes.
And man, for JB to be a Christian and like, you know, we're very similar. You know, like the way that he works it in, I think is really similar to how I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm working with Mellow Music, and Mellow, who runs the label, was like, yeah, man, can't wait to start promoting. And he came back, he's like, man, you have enemies somehow, because all of the press people that we talked to individually, they were so happy to work your project. They've always wanted to, but when you were with Rhymesayers, they couldn't do it. And he's like, now they're excited. They all go to their boss, and their boss vetoes it. You can't. This agency cannot work a Brother Ali record. Press agencies. And I'm like, okay. So it's confirmation. It's like the confirmation that like, oh, it's not that people's hearts aren't touched anymore.
Yeah.
It's just that when you insist on, there are certain things that will get your faucet shut off.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. They just turned the lights out on me for a full year. But it seems to be back on now.
As well it should be. As well it should be, bro. Yo, listen, man. Once again, the album drops on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. You have done a really dope thing, and you always do. In terms of the way that you make art available to us, you have some very special physical pieces that people can cop. You got the deluxe version that I didn't realize, and maybe I would have got it. That has the extra joint. That has the 18th joint.
There's a few deluxe versions. Yeah, Mellow is like really letting us do. So Brent Rollins designed that stuff, who did the Boys in the Hood logo and all kind of classic hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
And then B Plus shot the photos, who's like a classic, hip hop photographer.
Yeah.
Those dudes did the art. And Mellow Music was just like, do whatever you need to do in terms of manufacturing, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very special packaging.
That's what's up. So let people know how to cop it.
BrotherAli.com.
So simple, so straightforward, so easy. Brother Ali, man, I just can't tell you how much it warms my heart to have been able to sit with you this long and share this space with you. Thank you so much for the art that you've created, the consistency that you've had, and thank you for spending a couple minutes with me, man.
It's absolutely mutual. I feel seen and understood, which to me is everything. And yeah, we just keep on doing it. We should have a podcast together.
Let's do it, B. Let's do it. Hey,
like, yo, man, me and you and Mike Seatown and like a couple other, you know what I mean? A couple other people with similar kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should just, Adisa, I don't know if you know Adisa the Bishop, but like we could have a cool little, like one of those roundtable podcasts where we just chop it up about all type of stuff. That might be fun.
That would be fire. I'm with it, bro. I got to check in with wifey though. She's going to say, no, you're not doing anything else. So we'll see.
No more podcast, Klyph.
Hey, yo, man. Be sure to check out the project. It drops on the 14th. Satisfied Soul. Tap into this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. I don't even know if there's still Google Podcasts, or at klyphnotes.com. Thank you, everybody who taps in. And I always got to say thank you to the homie Theory Has It for creating the official theme song for the Klyph Notes podcast. Until we have an opportunity to do this again, y'all be blessed. Peace.